The revelation that shatters the fragile sense of stability surrounding the bold and the beautiful does not arrive with spectacle or warning, but with a quiet cruelty that makes it far more devastating. It comes through Poppy, whose sudden confession reorders everything Steffy Forrester Finnegan believed she understood about her marriage, her family, and the limits of the past. Dylan, Poppy reveals, is not simply a troubled young woman orbiting the edges of their lives, but the biological daughter of John Finnegan and the twin sister of Luna. In a single breath, history rearranges itself, and Steffy finds the ground beneath her feet give way to something unrecognizable. The shock is immediate and paralyzing, not because Steffy is unfamiliar with scandal or betrayal, but because this truth violates something deeper than expectation. It fractures the story she has been telling herself about survival after chaos. Luna's existence had already forced Steffy to confront the reality that her husband's past could intrude violently into her present. That ordeal was not abstract, it was dangerous, destabilizing, and costly. She had fought to protect her children, her marriage, and her sanity from the ripple effects of secrets that should never have been buried in the first place. To learn now that Luna was not an isolated mistake, but part of a larger, deliberately concealed truth, feels less like misfortune and more like calculated betrayal. Steffy's first response is disbelief, not denial in the childish sense, but a disciplined refusal to accept a reality that defies logic and fairness. She replays the implications again and again, searching for cracks in Poppy's claim, some inconsistency that would allow her to reject it outright. Finn, she knows, has made mistakes, but the idea that he could have fathered another child in secret, a twin no less, stretches her capacity for understanding beyond its limit. This is not about infidelity alone. It is about omission on a scale that alters identity, lineage, and consequence. The thought that Finn could have walked beside her, built a family with her, and spoken of truth and transparency while this knowledge existed somewhere in the shadows is unbearable. As the shock gives way to anger, its focus sharpens on Poppy. Steffy does not see a frightened mother protecting her child. She sees a woman who made an active choice to withhold a truth that would inevitably detonate lives. The fury that rises is not impulsive, but cumulative, built from years of navigating other people's secrets and paying the price for their silence. Steffy feels not merely deceived, but used, as though her stability was maintained at the expense of her right to know the forces shaping her own family. Poppy's silence, she realizes, was not neutral. It was a decision that allowed chaos to be deferred, not prevented, ensuring that when it arrived, it would be more destructive than ever. Memories of Luna resurface with brutal clarity, not as distant events, but as emotional scars that never fully healed. Steffy remembers the fear, the unpredictability, the sense that danger could erupt without warning. Luna had not merely complicated their lives. She had threatened them, destabilized them, and forced Steffy into a defensive posture she never wanted to inhabit. Those memories sharpen her anger now, transforming it into something colder and more focused. If Dylan is Luna's twin, then whatever darkness existed there cannot be dismissed as singular or accidental. Steffy does not believe in inherited guilt, but she understands patterns, environments, and the consequences of secrets left to rot. The idea that Poppy watched Luna spiral while knowing there was another child connected to the same origin, the same deception, feels unforgivable. This revelation does not remain contained between Steffy and Poppy, it reaches immediately into the heart of Steffy's marriage. Her trust in Finn, already tested by past revelations, begins to fracture under the weight of possibility. Even if Finn did not know, Steffy cannot ignore the implications of what this means about his past and the people surrounding him. She begins to question not only what he knew, but how much of his life remains unexplored, how many corners of his history were never illuminated, because it was easier not to ask. Trust, she realizes, is not only about honesty in the present, but about accountability for the past. Without that, intimacy becomes conditional and fragile. Steffy's fear is not limited to betrayal, it is profoundly maternal. Her thoughts turn immediately to her children, to the sanctuary she has fought to create for them after years of instability. Dylan's presence, regardless of intent or innocence, represents intrusion. Another child of Finn's, born from secrecy and tied to past trauma, threatens the balance Steffy has worked tirelessly to maintain. She imagines the questions that will arise, the emotional entanglements that cannot be avoided, and the potential for disruption that extends far beyond adult conflict. Steffy is not willing to gamble her children's peace on the hope that this secret will resolve itself benignly. What follows is not retreat, but resolve. Steffy understands that avoidance will only empower the chaos she fears. She knows she must confront both Finn and Poppy, not in search of comfort, but in pursuit of clarity. Every detail matters now: timelines, decisions, motivations. She needs to understand not only what happened, but why it was hidden, and who benefited from that silence. Steffy is not naive enough to believe that the full truth will come easily, but she is determined to extract it, because uncertainty is no longer tolerable. The cost of ignorance has already been paid too many times. As she prepares for that confrontation, Steffy's internal conflict deepens. Love and anger coexist in uneasy tension, neither fully eclipsing the other. She loves Finn, but love without trust feels hollow, almost dangerous. She wants to believe in his integrity, yet she cannot ignore the reality that his life continues to generate revelations that threaten hers. This tension forces Steffy to confront a question she has avoided for years: how much compromise is too much, and at what point does endurance become self-betrayal? The answer is not clear, but the urgency of the question is. Steffy's vow to protect her family crystallizes into something unyielding. This is not a dramatic declaration, but a quiet, iron resolve shaped by experience. She has survived chaos before, and she knows survival requires decisiveness. If protecting her family means demanding boundaries, exposing secrets, or even severing ties that once felt essential, she is prepared to do so. Steffy does not see herself as cruel or unforgiving, she sees herself as responsible. Responsibility, she has learned, often requires choices that others will judge harshly but history will vindicate. The tragedy of this moment lies in its inevitability. Secrets of this magnitude do not remain buried forever, they surface when the damage they can do is greatest. Poppy's confession does not create the crisis, it merely reveals it. Finn's past does not suddenly become dangerous, it always was, waiting for the moment it intersected irreversibly with Steffy's present. Dylan's existence does not inherently threaten Steffy's family, but the deception surrounding it does. Trust erodes not because of what happened, but because of how long it was allowed to remain hidden. As the truth settles into the spaces where certainty once lived, Steffy understands that nothing will ever be the same. Whether her marriage survives this revelation is no longer a matter of endurance, but of transformation. Finn will have to confront not only Steffy's anger, but her fear, and decide whether transparency is something he can truly offer, not selectively, but completely. Poppy will have to face the consequences of her silence, not as abstract judgment, but as lived fallout that cannot be undone. In the end, Steffy's greatest strength is not her fury, but her clarity. She refuses to romanticize betrayal, to excuse deception in the name of peace, or to sacrifice her family's stability on the altar of other people's comfort. Whatever comes next, she will meet it head-on, armed with the hard-earned knowledge that secrets do not protect families. They test them. And only those willing to confront the truth, no matter how painful, have any hope of surviving what follows. The confrontation that unfolds inside the Finnegan home does not erupt suddenly, but arrives with the slow, suffocating weight of inevitability, the kind that presses on the chest long before a single word is spoken. In the world of the bold and the beautiful, revelations rarely come cleanly, and this one arrives soaked in disbelief, fear, and a corrosive sense that the past has once again found a way to invade the present. Steffy Forrester Finnegan does not enter the room calmly. Her body carries the tension before her voice ever does. The name Dylan hangs in the air between her and John Finnegan, heavy with implication, accusation, and pain. Dylan, the child Finn never knew existed, the twin sister of Luna, has already altered the foundation of their marriage before Finn has even had time to understand what that means. Steffy demands answers not because she expects them to come easily, but because silence has already cost her too much in the past. Her anger is sharp, but beneath it lies something far more dangerous: fear. Fear that the life she has fought to stabilize is once again being reshaped by secrets she never consented to carry. She does not ask gently how this could have happened. She challenges Finn directly, forcing him to confront the impossible reality that a child tied to his DNA, his history, and his name has emerged without his knowledge. To Steffy, ignorance is not a shield. It is a vulnerability, and one that terrifies her. Finn's reaction is raw and unguarded. Shock registers first, followed by confusion so profound it borders on disbelief. He does not recognize the story Steffy is describing as one that belongs to him. There is no memory, no buried guilt rising to the surface, no secret relationship waiting to be exposed. The idea that he could have fathered Dylan without ever knowing feels not only implausible, but fundamentally incompatible with the man he believes himself to be. His instinct is to steady Steffy, to ground her, to remind her that whatever this revelation means, it does not automatically translate into betrayal. Yet even as he speaks, Finn realizes that reassurance alone will not bridge the chasm that has opened between them. Steffy does not accept his shock at face value. She cannot afford to. Too many times, too many people in her life have insisted they were unaware, uninformed, uninvolved, only for the truth to surface later with devastating clarity. She presses him harder, demanding to know whether there was ever a relationship, however brief or forgotten, that could explain Dylan's existence. The question is not only about biology, it is about honesty. If Finn's past contains corners he never examined, then their marriage has been built on incomplete truth, and that realization cuts deeper than anger ever could. Finn insists on his fidelity with a conviction that is both sincere and desperate. He does not frame his loyalty as an abstract principle, but as a lived reality, one defined by choice, restraint, and commitment to Steffy. He swears that he has never betrayed her, never knowingly crossed a line that would fracture their marriage. And yet, the presence of Dylan complicates that declaration in ways neither of them can ignore. Fidelity, Steffy realizes, is not only about intention, but about consequence. A child exists. A twin, no less. And that fact alone demands accountability, regardless of knowledge or intent. As the weight of the revelation settles, both Steffy and Finn begin to trace the outline of what they do know, and inevitably, their thoughts converge on Poppy. Poppy is not merely a peripheral figure in this story, she is its axis. As Luna's mother, she occupies the space where truth and silence intersect. Steffy's anger sharpens into something more focused, as she realizes that Poppy's decision to remain silent did not simply protect her own child, but actively deprived Finn of the right to know his daughter and Steffy of the right to make informed choices about her life and family. To Steffy, this is not a misunderstanding. It is a deliberate withholding of truth with irreversible consequences. Finn feels the shift as well. The shock that initially immobilized him transforms into resolve. If Dylan is his daughter, then ignorance is no longer an option. He cannot remain passive, cannot allow the narrative of his life to be rewritten by omissions he never authorized. Finn recognizes that confronting Poppy is not merely about uncovering facts, but about reclaiming agency. He needs to understand how Dylan came into the world, why he was never told, and what Poppy hoped to gain by keeping such a monumental secret hidden. More importantly, he needs to demonstrate to Steffy that he is willing to confront discomfort and conflict head-on to protect what they have built together. Steffy's insistence that Finn seek out Poppy immediately is not driven by vindictiveness, but by urgency. She understands how quickly uncertainty can metastasize into resentment. Every unanswered question becomes fertile ground for doubt, and doubt, once rooted, is difficult to eradicate. Steffy has learned through painful experience that waiting for clarity often allows damage to deepen unchecked. She needs Finn to act, not just as a husband, but as a father and a man who refuses to let others dictate the terms of his truth. Finn agrees without hesitation. His decision to confront Poppy is not a reactionary move, but a conscious step toward accountability. He knows that this confrontation will be uncomfortable, perhaps even destabilizing, but he also understands that avoidance would be far worse. If Dylan is his child, then she deserves acknowledgement, honesty, and responsibility. If Poppy has been carrying this secret alone, then she must explain why. Finn's resolve is fueled not only by a desire to protect his marriage, but by a growing sense that his identity as a father has been altered irrevocably, whether he likes it or not. As Finn prepares to leave, Steffy's anxiety crystallizes into something quieter, but no less intense. Her anger has not dissipated, it has simply transformed into vigilance. She worries about the future not in abstract terms, but in tangible ones. She envisions the ripple effects this revelation could have on her children, on the sense of safety she has worked tirelessly to establish. Another child of Finn's, born of secrecy and tied to past turmoil, threatens to destabilize that equilibrium. Steffy knows that even if Finn is innocent of wrongdoing, the situation itself carries inherent risk. What haunts Steffy most is not the existence of Dylan, but the pattern this revelation represents. Secrets have a way of resurfacing in her life with relentless regularity, each one testing her resilience and forcing her to redraw boundaries she thought were secure. She wonders how many more truths remain buried, waiting for the right moment to emerge. This fear does not weaken her resolve, it strengthens it. Steffy understands that protecting her family will require more than forgiveness or patience. It will require transparency, boundaries, and the courage to walk away from anything that threatens their stability, no matter how painful that choice might be. Finn senses the fragility of this moment with acute clarity. He knows that his marriage is not hanging by a single thread, but by a complex web of trust, history, and shared struggle. He cannot afford to treat Steffy's fears as overreactions, or dismiss them with promises alone. His actions in the coming hours and days will matter far more than his words. By confronting Poppy, he is not simply seeking answers, he is demonstrating his willingness to fight for his marriage, even when the battle lines are drawn by a past he never knew existed. The house feels different as Finn leaves, charged with uncertainty and unresolved emotion. Steffy remains behind, not defeated, but alert. She understands that this confrontation with Poppy is only the beginning, not the resolution. Whatever truth emerges will demand further reckoning, further choices, and perhaps further sacrifice. Yet Steffy does not shy away from that reality. She has survived chaos before, and she knows that clarity, however painful, is always preferable to illusion. In this moment, both Steffy and Finn stand at a crossroads, shaped by revelation rather than intention. Dylan's existence has already altered their trajectory, forcing them to confront questions of trust, identity, and responsibility that cannot be postponed. Whether their marriage emerges strengthened or fractured will depend not on what happened in the past, but on how they choose to face it now. For Steffy, the priority is clear: her family's safety, emotional and physical, must come first. For Finn, the challenge is equally stark: to prove that honesty and accountability are not conditional, but foundational. As the truth begins to surface, one reality becomes undeniable. Secrets may be born in silence, but they demand resolution in confrontation. And in the world of the bold and the beautiful, the courage to confront the truth is often the only thing standing between love's survival and its collapse.